So as a network engineer, there are a series of activities that you are going to deal with. I have here about 15 of them that we are going to talk about some here, and the rest we will do it at the boot camp. So the first one is what we tackle, which has to do with ticketing system. And we've talked about incident ticket, we've spoken about request tickets. So I'm sure you are all aware of what to expect when you are working as an engineer in terms of ticketing system. The next aspect is procurement. So as a network engineer, you might even get a job as a procurement engineer or procurement manager, and you have to know how to do procurement. What are the requirements? What are the process? So every company have different procurement model that they use. The simplest one, which I'll share with you, and the rest you can find out when you get a job in terms of what procurement process do they have in place, so that you follow the same way in terms of how to procure. So you can see that the first item, you need orientation. The second item, you also need a orientation in terms of their procurement process that they have in their industry. So once you get that information, then it will support you, or it will help you to identify or know how to source for items, know how to purchase them, and even know how to receive them, okay, in terms of your working environment. So let's say you are working in company A. What process am I going to use to make procurement? And then when I make the procurement, do you have any vendors we deal with anytime we are dealing with switches, routers, APs, and all those stuff? In addition with that, you also have to find out also how will you receive them. Some companies have a whole department that receive all items, and then they have to have attention to your name, where they will come and put it on your desk. So these are things you have to know in terms of your first week when you get a job. But let's go through one of them. One of the company I've used with that I share with my student is CDW. It's a company that you can buy everything. So Cisco switches, routers, you can get them from any party. We have retail people that you can buy from. So this one, it can help you to get routers. They have good sales engineers who can help you to get routers, switches, AP, UPS, everything you want, cables, they sell them. So let's say your company doesn't have a procurement process where you get to know that they don't have a spare switch, they don't have a spare router, they don't have a spare AP, UPS, whatever the case may be, that should be the reason for the procurement. And then they don't have a process in place in terms of how to get these items. Then, as I'm saying, you can reach out to CDW. You can just browse it, write it somewhere so that you can know that. And that will help you to deal with that situation. But every company should have purchase requisition form, which is what you use to fill in order to get the supply information. And then you go through the process of evaluation to know the actual thing you want to buy. And then you request for quotation, and the quotation is what your company will then get to do the approval. And once you get the approval, then you can now make your purchase, and then you have your contract for your purchase. You get your item being purchased, then it comes to you as you need it. Does that make sense to everybody with the whole concept? But how are you going to deal with it if you are to buy switches? How are you going to deal with it? Or what are the things that will help you to make the purchase? Is what I want to share with you about. In terms of the process involved, have I explained it well for you to understand before I go to the items that I'm going to talk about? Do you really understand what I spoke about? Or if just to be sure, I'll ask questions then. So Chestero, walk me through. You get a job today, you want to make procurement. What will you have in mind in terms of the process involved in procurement for what I've spoken about?
So you said sometimes some companies have procurement engineers. like they have people who like place the order and stuff like that. But if they don't have, we can use CDW.
Very good. CDW. Write it somewhere. This is something I should charge you for telling you this. But I'm giving you free process. So write it down somewhere if they don't have it. But if they have it, what are the components involved that I said you should be mindful of?
So you talk about like routers.
So items to procure should be network. So you are not going to procure computers. That doesn't fall under you. You are not going to make procurement for printers. It doesn't fall under you. So items to purchase. So you have to identify, okay, component involved, identify items to purchase. And we are going to list example, and I'll show you factors to consider when you are doing that thing. So items to purchase, first one are routers, because you are a network engineer, and of course Cisco routers, and we'll go into why you need them and what makes you to buy them, and what are the things you should consider when you are making purchase of these items. The second one is, as a network engineer, you do procurement relating to switches. The third one is you do procurement relating to APs. APs, I mean access points for your wireless. These are the common things, and maybe wireless controller, depending on the situation. We are going to handle it one at a time in terms of how you make the procurement to get the right item. Okay, and then we talk of cables. Now the cables, I'm going to say that the cables will relate to fiber alone. The copper, you get some from the field support guys in terms of that, relating to the copper. So that one you get some. So you don't need to bother so much when it comes to that aspect. So if you need some, or if you have to buy, fair enough. But network engineer, you are responsible more for fibers. And then the fifth one, you buy transceivers. So in an interview, if they ask you what are the items you've purchased before and what process you use, that is why I'm giving you this list. So transceivers, and then the sixth one will be UPS. Okay. So now what process did you use for your procurement is what I want to be sure you understand. What process did you use for procurement? So first of all, they should be able to recognize the need for an item. So that is first thing. So this need for item could be from a project. So there should be a need for the purchase. Oh, this one I should have even let this guy talk about it. What is the name? Chestero, give me. Or is there anybody here who has procurement skills? Is there anybody? Obed. Okay, Obed. They say you've been a procurement manager before. Walk us through. It doesn't need to be network, but I mean the procurement process is always the same. Walk us through the process involved. Give us a story around the process involved. So I've said that you need to identify the need for the product. So the need for the purchase, or identify the need for the product. Okay. Which in this situation it could be for spare. As a network engineer, the need for the purchase could be for spare devices. In case you get a job, you have to know that there is a spare switch, spare router, spare AP, so that if one of them is not there, you can be able to know. Also, you do procurement for modernization. What do I mean by modernization? What I mean by modernization is your company can refresh their device with new devices. So that could also be the need for that. So modernization project is the reason why you do procurement for this item. Okay, and then modernization for project is what I mean. Project. These are the major need for it in terms of network engineer. Either you are buying it as a spare, you need to have spare of all this. Router, switches, access point, cables. I'll give you things that you have to have. Wireless controller, it might not be. Or firewall, you are not a firewall engineer, so you don't think of that. By fiber cables, transceivers, UPS, you need to make sure there is a spare. You need to also, sometimes there could be the need because of modernization. You want to upgrade your switches, upgrade your APs, your wireless controllers, your routers. These are the reasons. So can you walk us through, Obed? I was told that you are the senior procurement manager.
So what about new remote sites?
That's not true. I haven't actually done some before.
You've never done some before, or you feel shy to say it?
No.
Sir, what
I don't mind Obed, he's lying.
Oh, Obed, no, why? We are all learning. I'm also learning, Obed. Huh?
Sir,
yes. I haven't done some.
Prof.
Yes.
Prof is pointing me out.
Prof, what about new remote sites?
Yes, so new remote site. Okay, setting up a new remote site. That would be a good addition. It's part of, so let's say network expansion. So you say network expansion. Very good. I like that one. So network expansion will be the reason why you need some. What again? So this, first of all, we are going through the process involved. There should be a need for the purchase. We spoke about the need for the purchase. Who can suggest another process involved? I've spoken about it. So who can tell me? Oh, nobody is talking about it. I've said it already. Chestero.
So, Prof, you said like sometimes we should check the back room, right?
The what?
The back room, which would be like the storage area, right? Where they store their stuff.
Yes, that is where you have to. So you need to know that to check whether you have this. You have spare for maybe modernization project for network expansion, and also the spare is enough for in case of dead devices. So that fall under the first item.
Yeah, so over there, that's where you're gonna find out whether they have all those items or they don't have it. So
exactly. What again?
So you said if it's not networking, let's say it's in another field.
Right? If you've done procurement in other field, you can share. It's the same thing. And then if it's correct, I will say. If it's not correct, but I've even spoken about it in my intro. I just wanted to put it on bulletin point to be sure that you understand what I'm saying. But yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about another field. Okay, so in another field, you have a system. So because I used to be a manager in a retail. So over there, like anytime somebody purchases something, it will record, right? So which means it will show that like it's items. Maybe you have like 10 in the store or something like that. So maybe 6 have been sold. So you have to replace it. So you have a system. They have a system telling you to order the stuff.
So you have a system for. So find out for a system for evaluation and approval. So your company have a system for evaluation and approval. So they have to evaluate the need for it, why you want to do this project, and then your manager has to approve, or the procurement manager has to approve for whatever the case may be. And then the third item will be what?
If they approve, then you place the order then.
Okay, so place the order. So you request for what? Quote. So that is what we call request for quote, RFQ. RFQ, which is what? Request for quotes. Okay, so you have to do request for quotes. So there should be a need for the procurement, and then you have to go through the evaluation and the approval stage. After the evaluation and the approval stage, you then request for the quote. So under the evaluation and approval stage is where you get to know your suppliers. So like if you don't have any suppliers, as I said, you can pick example of CDW, but you get to know your suppliers through your evaluation and the approval stage to select the right suppliers. Some company will have through the system, and this is something you have to be oriented. Through the system, you can have suppliers for cables, you can have suppliers for switches, so you have vendors for different items. So that is where you do that, and then the system will then send an alert to your manager to evaluate what you want to buy and then see whether there is a budget to get your approval in terms of that. And then once you have the approval, you can then request for quote, and your boss also has to be aware of the item you want to buy. Then what else? Yes, Chestero, you are still on the floor. You were giving us good information, so we have to listen to you. You have forgotten?
No, I've not forgotten. So, so in a retail, so it depends. So like what you are selling most. So let's say like on hand, you have to have like certain amount on hand.
Oh, so you are talking on the on the supplier side. It seems like your answer is on the supplier side.
No.
So you are talking like a sales engineer. You know, procurement can let you be a sales engineer or procurement engineer. So there are jobs where you work like CDW. They have Cisco engineers who are sales engineers. So you can get jobs you can even check job search, and in terms of your job role, sales engineer is there, procurement engineer in there. They want technical procurement engineer or technical sales engineer. There are so many companies like that. So if you are on the sales engineer, then you are talking of your stock. You were talking of stock level. Is that what you said or what? Unless
I was talking about like a retail, from a retail point. Yeah. So let's say you're supposed to have certain amount of product on hand, right? And if you know that you are selling most of those,
but you are selling, but we are buying. So we are not interested in selling.
We have to order.
Yes.
So we are talking about ordering.
Yes,
right?
we are talking of ordering, because procurement you order. But if you are sales, then what you are saying is important, knowing your stock level to see whether the item that people want to have with the time. And in terms of requests for quotes.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Ebenezer, you want to say something? Go ahead. It's not okay. You say it. You want to say something? Let me hear your voice. Okay. We are learning together, guys. I've told you the training is over. This is a discussion to be able to know what happens in the industry. And this is one of the items of your activities, making procurement for routers, switches, APs, and all those stuff. We've given instance why the need. Why did you make the procurement? So you have something to say. For network expansion by setting a remote office, for modernization, for upgrade or refresh of the network to keep as a spare device. These are the main reason for the need for the purchase. And then through that, it goes through our evaluation and approval stage, where my boss should evaluate the item I want to buy, and then also approve whether the company have budget for these items. Then now you can request for quote. So when you request for quote, what do you think will happen next is what I'm asking. What do you think will happen next?
So bro, it depends. So let's say like now that you're giving us like CDW, right? So let's say they have different vendors like they order from, right? And you as an engineer, you find out like CW have like lesser prices. You can bring it up to them, to your manager, to see. And if the manager say, okay, oh, maybe this is less, they have like lesser values and stuff like that. So they'll be like, okay, maybe we should go with a different vendor. You know? So now they're gonna end up like maybe going with your, like what you suggested, and they're gonna change it now. They're gonna go with you, what you're saying, because it's less, because it's gonna save them money. And companies, when it comes to companies, they always wanna save money. So
your procurement skills are very bad. All of you, you've not done procurement before, so
We're
there should be.
negotiating.
You have to be. There should be RFP. The RFP means request for proposal. So request for proposal, and who will send this? Who will send this?
your manager.
That will be
That will be who?
that will be the network manager.
That will be from the supplier. You request for quotes. They give you request for proposal in terms of what you want to request. And this is very, very key. This is where building a good relationship with the supplier is very, very important. Now, this is where you go through specifications. You go through specifications on what they have in terms of your request. Specifications, yes, okay, I thought I spelled it wrong. So you go through the specifications, and then you have to let them know when you want your ETA for the item to arrive. So you go through all those details. So this is very, very important. So once you get a request for proposal, this is from the supplier, this is from you, the network engineer, or sometimes to the procurement will be done by your manager. So you just tell him what you need and he goes through all this. But yes, there should be a request for proposal that comes with specification and order. Then the contract can be agreed on, okay? So now based on the proposal, then there is a contract agreement in terms of everything you need. So for example, I want to buy a router. The router, I want it to use it for VPN, so I need a right license. I need something that will support VPN, BGP, or whatever the case may be, because routers are for wide area network. Or let's say you want it for a switch. I need a 1 gig port switch. I need 10 gig port switch. All these things will be in the request of the proposal because of you requesting for a quote. So you request what you want. And once there is an agreement, then there is a purchase order. And after the purchase order, then you are good to go, okay? So I was saying it, I said this before, but I thought you know it. Then something came in my mind that no, I've been a student before. When you write it, it's always better. So that will help in terms of writing it down. And then one key thing you have to know, and this is for reference, which you have to know, and this one I'm talking of MB, you have to know how the goods will be received, how to receive the goods. Every company has different process. And then also, let me also tell you this. You should have, there is a situation like this, where you can return old devices to get a discount. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So if you have switches that you've purchased for 5 years, 4 years, but for some reason the project didn't come on, it's still in a box somewhere, you are sending it, you are making a new purchase, you can have a way of dealing with the person to be aware of that, so that you know how to deliver that goods in order to get a new purchase. Do you all get the flow of what I'm saying? So that is very, very important. And Jennifer, you want to add something to it?
Yes, I wanted to ask if that is applicable for this one. I mean, in terms of networking.
And
Sometimes when companies send in their RFPs, we do technical evaluations to select which of them we are using. And these RFPs usually come with the deadlines, how the goods should be delivered, the specifications and everything like that. So I wanted to know if before the contract is agreed, we'd also do technical evaluation at this point of the RFP to be able to select.
It sounds like you are in
Or we just
Pakistan.
go straight away to the contract.
Yeah, sound like you are in Pakistan. Yeah, I'm not hearing anything. Or can you guys hear? Is it coming from my side?
I'm saying that.
It sounds like she's rapping.
We can't hear you well.
Okay. Please, can you hear me now?
Yes, now I think it's better.
Okay.
Yes, so say it again because I
just wanna-
couldn't hear anything.
Doing that. Okay, so I'm saying that I'm just asking if what I'm coming to ask about is applicable in this context. That sometimes, after RFPs have been sent in with the specifications, the reorders, the strategy of order, what is and everything. Sometimes some companies will conduct technical evaluation. Contract is agreed on.
No, today
So I wanted to know if this angle will
today
also go
where
into
you
this
are,
before contract
where
is
you
agreed
are,
on.
you can't talk because we can't hear anything. But I think what you are talking about is the RFP in terms of what is being discussed. Yes, it's back and forth conversation. So once you get to know what you
Okay.
want and order, then you get. But I forgot something. We have what you call RMA. You have to make sure there is an RMA in terms of your agreement. But this is something that you have to know. You have to be oriented because every company is different, and I don't want to use one format because I've worked in different companies where the arrangement is different. So this is return material authorization. So it's an arrangement in which the supplier of the device, which means switches, routers, or whatever, agree to have the customer to ship the item back to them in an exchange of refund or credit. Let me give you one good example. I made a purchase of a switch. So after the purchase, it's a brand new, so you don't think of testing it. Then I deploy the switch. Then from the day I deploy the switch, every day the switch will reboot itself. The switch will reboot itself. If I don't have this agreement, I can't return the item. So there's a clause of time that you should get it. So all those things should be spelled out so that they will make it as fast as it can. So that is very, very, very important in terms of having RMA signed in terms of your process of doing the purchase. But just for an interview purpose, you can talk about what I've talked about in terms of the process involved that you use for your procurement. There should be the need for the purchase. That is the first thing. And based on my role dealing as a network engineer, sometimes there are need for spare, to keep a spare, to do upgrade of the network, to do network expansion. These are the common need that you are going to have. Then through that, it goes through our system to evaluate to get approval. Then we can make a request for quote. Then we get a request for proposal from the supplier. Then there is a contract agreement. We make our purchase order and also ensure that there is a RMA in place in terms of how we can return the item in case we don't get what we really need. So these are the things you have to know, okay, in terms of that. But now let me go in specific. When you are making purchase of routers, what are the things to consider? First of all, you have to know what you are using it for. One of the things that can go against you is you have to get a license that will support the protocol you want. To support the protocol, and I'm going to give you one typical example. So for routers, you create it for VPN. Not all licenses support that. You also will use, if you are using MPLS, it means that you need something that supports BGP as well. And I've had devices that doesn't support BGP. You have to upgrade it and all that. So you have to that is the reason why when it comes to selling network devices, they also get a technical sales engineer. So you can get a job as a sales engineer where you sell Cisco product, and because you are a technical person, you can even advise them, what do you need it for? That should be your first question to ask when you are a sales engineer. What do you need it for? What are the protocol you are going to run on? Then you check whether the device has features or has something that will support on that. When it comes to switches, you have to be sure of what you need. The port speed is very important when you are requesting for switches. So port speed is what we really consider when we are dealing with switches, to make sure that your access port, is it 1 gig, is it 10 gig? So they have different model in terms of that. And this part, because now new switches have this, is it PoE? Does it support PoE if it's a wireless project? Because PoE is power over Ethernet. So you get power out of the Ethernet port. So when you connect it to the Ethernet port, you get power. So this is something you have to think about when you are making procurement for switches. And then when you are making procurement for wireless controllers, you also have to make sure, let me talk of the APs. Wireless controller will be a wireless project, but as a network engineer, let me talk of APs. When you are dealing with APs, you want to purchase APs, make sure it supports the current wireless controller. That is very key. And now I'm doing wireless video on YouTube. So after the class, I'll show you the link, and then you have to be watching them as well. I'm going to complete all the aspect of wireless. So now all you have to think about YouTube video. Just watch till you become as good as you can. That is very, very key. So you have to get AP that support that. Okay, the AP that supports the wireless controller is very, very key. And then in addition of that, the cables, if you are doing the cable, you have to talk of the length, because where you are going to use is very key. So we have 1 meter, we have 2 meters, we have 3 meters, and all those things. And sometimes you can have it in feet as well, but mostly it's in meters. And then you have to think of the connectors. If you are making purchase for all this, think of the connectors. Connectors, I mean, is it LC to LC you want to buy, or is it SC to LC you want to buy, or is it whatever, as you know already in terms of that. So this is the way you do procurement when it comes to cable. The length where you are going to use, consider the length you need, and then also consider your fiber patch panel connection and your switch connection, because in terms of fiber cable, you can say that I want 1 meter of LC to, let's say, ST, depending on what situation the case may be. So length and connectors is what we consider when we are dealing with cable procurement. Then transceivers, that is it for multi-mode or single mode? You have to know that we have transceivers we use for multi-mode, we have transceivers we use for single mode. So you have to find out, is it a multi-mode transceiver or single mode transceiver? Example, if it's a multi-mode, you can have transceiver like SR. If it's a single mode, you can have transceivers like LR. And all this goes with the speed. This is 10 gig speed. So you have to talk about that. And I'm going to show you all this at the bootcamp, so you see it, and then the explanation will make sense in terms of that. So that is key in terms of making procurement with this item, after you know the process involved that we use. Then UPS is very, very important. As if you get a job as a project engineer, you might be doing a lot of procurement for your own project. So this, you have to understand it, and the UPS is very important. Now UPS, they are 1500. Let me go to the internet and show you one example that will make the conversation easy. So let's say I have specific one that I buy, APC. They are the best when it comes to UPS. They are the ones I use mostly in terms of UPS purchase. So UPS, we have the rackable one. These are for normal distance. So network engineer, you buy the rackable ones. These are the one that you can rack. So you see that this one is also rackable. Okay, so those are the ones that you buy. So it comes with different capacity. So if you look at this is 1000 VA. Let me see other capacity that we have. 3000 VA. Okay, and sometimes some have monitoring services. So this is smart UPS. You can monitor it to see the level of the load, whether the battery is fully charged. So we have UPS which are connected on the network. So you can have some of this. So in terms of your purchase, just to be sure, Kobe, What UPS did I recommend for you to buy? Kobe, what UPS did I recommend to buy? Kobe is sleeping. Okay, George, what UPS did I recommend you to buy? The brand, what brand?
Is it AP? APs?
You see, nobody is making notes. Okay.
Oh, this, I watched the video again.
You watch the video. So because of video, people are not paying attention. Because of this, I'm
Oh,
not
me, I
sending the
usually watch it
video
after
again.
to make the
So
notes.
no video
So
today.
oh, please, I beg.
Method of calculation I use when it comes to the capacity involved. This one, when it comes to the capacity involved, if I'm dealing with 1500 capacity, 1500 VA, for this one I will use for only 2 devices. So let's say 2 switches or 2 routers. This is what I use. If you go and use it for 4 switches, it will be there for nothing. It means that the load for 4 switches will be too heavy for 1500 capacity. So if I have 300, so we have 2300 VA. This, I can use this for 3 switches or 3 network devices. So this will help you in terms of having peace of mind. If not, you see that you have UPS, but when they lose power within a short possible time, everything is off. It cannot sustain the load. So that is very, very important. Now 3000 VA, even to be on a safer side, let me add this or 3000 because I just remembered something for 3 switches. Now I'll go for either 2 of this. I'll go for either 2 of this 2300, or we have 5000 VA if I'm dealing with switches of 4 to 5. Okay, and then when I'm dealing with 6, I'll go for, let's say, 3000, 2 of them, 2 times 3000 VA. This is what I use in my calculation and in my deployment of UPS. This, you get peace of mind. Try and keep this process when you are making procurement for UPS. So what it means is you have to know how many load you are going to put on to be able to determine the capacity you are going to buy. So that is very, very key. So this is all about procurement. First of all, you have to know why we do procurement. You have to know when you are doing the procurement things which are very important to consider, and then that is it. You are good to go when it comes to that angle. So let me see if you have questions. George.
Yeah, Prof. So with the UPS, when you have, let's say, 3000 VA for 3 switches, is there a specific duration that the UPS can go on for? And if that's the case, let's say I have just 1 switch but it's on 3000 VA, does the duration extend longer, like how a battery life is? Or
I want to avoid the duration because it depends on the switch. That is why I didn't talk about the duration. It depends on the switch in question. Some of them have a lot of processing units. Some of them, in terms of the load variation. So what I know is if you go with this method, you are not going to get any issues that will mean like there is no UPS, because the purpose for the UPS is to be able to stand when there is generator testing. So every company have they do generator test maybe once in a week to be sure that their backup system is working. So they will go off and on to see whether the generator will take over, and those stuff will stop, will sometimes let you lose power within few seconds. The UPS should stand in. You can also have a situation where there will be light outage for remote office, especially remote office, where it might come up within 30 minutes and order. So these factors within 30-minute duration, plus or minus in terms of that. But go with this process and you get a peace of mind. Did you get the concept?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Then Lumine, I don't know if it's old hand or new one. So if it's old hand, you can unmute yourself. But if it's you can lower your hand. But if it's
Sir,
new one,
I put it up when you were talking about the procurement. I wanted to give my experience.
oh, okay. So you have experience in procurement and you were quiet, Lumine.
I put my hands up, sir.
But we called you several times. Today, Kobe is distracted. I don't know who is in the house today, but Kobe is not focusing. Huh? But
Sir, you are calling me about the UPA. Was it male Kobe? You were talking about the
no, the
UPS?
female. Now the Kobe,
Female?
you've taken it. So even the male Kobe, I don't even remember. Is Kobe even here today? I've not seen Kobe today.
I thought you were calling the male Kobe.
Okay, so it's you, our only female Kobe.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. That's why I was putting my hands up.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, share your experience with procurement. It's all learning process for all of us. So you've done procurement before, right?
Yeah, I actually did accounting, so I used to till from 2016 to 2023, right? Before I came here. Yeah, I used to be like the finance assistant to shipping company, OPT shipping.
Okay. So what
Yeah.
are your procurement process?
So I will tell you, I will explain to you the one that used to benefit me, where I used to get my cut, right? So 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 our process is like let's say we have shipping department that is anything that has to do with vessel. Then we have clearing and following like the container business or anything on the ground. So it was like logistic and shipping. Anything on ground is logistic, including the fleets, right? So the fleets was where my me eating was. So let's say we had like what? So we had like
Any department that receive the items in terms of your procurement. So let's say a company, you get items and all that. There is a shipping department where all items will be received by them, and they will send it to people that they are supposed to send to. So that department, I forgot about that. So in over here too, in your procurement process, there is a shipping department. They receive the items, they also send the items. If you want to do your return authorization as well, you send it to them and they will ship it for you. So you don't go to the post office or FedEx to ship it or to take the item. There is always a department who will receive and ship items for you when it comes to that item. So that is very important to know. Now, got to say that not everybody qualified to do procurement. Okay, that is also one aspect we have to know. So in your company, who are the people responsible for procurement? Do you have any department?
I was responsible for
Oh, so you are the procurement manager in question.
so
So Lomene is the procurement manager. Okay then. Okay, hold on.
so I have cut
So hold on,
I have
hold
cut
on.
in all the other departments like
Okay,
10% if you bring
But
something.
you are very rich, my
okay.
sister.
So hold on,
When you
hold
bring
on.
something,
So hold on. Okay, so you were using manual spreadsheet for that. Okay, good. So I also forgot. So there are software. The reason why I didn't want to talk about software for procurement is because sometimes you mention one and they will ask you detail that you don't know how to say about it. But there are few software for procurement that is in the system. E-requisition is what I'm used to dealing with it most of the time, but some company have different process. But in terms of software, if they ask you what software do you use for all this, you tell them you go through the manual process, which is more about email conversation, email trail conversation and all that to get the right approval. And then sometimes it has to be communication and phone communication or meetings upon meetings to make sure everything is okay before you do that. So that was something sorry, I forgot to add, and as you are saying it, it makes sense to me. So at least we have a procurement manager who is now a network engineer. So that is a good thing to know. So that is good input. Okay. So Godfred,
That one with the cat.
that one.
From cash to
But
cash.
I don't know about here. Is there a way after procuring everything, the supplier offers any form of technical support? Because I have had an experience where after purchasing all the equipment, like the supplier follows up with his team to come and help in the installation and all that to make sure everything is done well and is in order. So you will not come back to be complaining about this and that. I don't know if it happens.
Okay,
in
so
the industry.
so there are other things. So you are talking of a different thing. But when it comes to switches, routers, they don't provide any technical support. That is why you are there, Godfrey. Why do you think they hire you? You are the technical engineer. So that is the
No, I
reason
think
why.
that-
And that is
Yes,
the.
I think that.
Uh-huh.
I think sometimes they think that in order that you don't misapply something and then come back.
Why
to
will you
accuse them of-
misconfigure? Misapply what? Misconfigure
Like-
or do wrong installation?
The
Then-
wrong installation because when we purchase UPSs and other equipment, I saw the supplier following up with his team.
Because that
Then
time
I
you were
just
not
allowed
a
it.
network engineer. By UPS is just charging and plugging. You plug for the battery to charge, then you apply your load. You don't need any training on this. So it's not a big deal when it comes to UPS. It's not really a big deal. In terms of, you can watch video on how to install UPS. Very simple. But we have UPS that we connect on the network so that you can monitor. That you might have to add further configuration to it. So that is a different conversation. But there is one aspect of, and that doesn't go through procurement. That goes through more like creating solution for the company. For example, the monitoring tool. Your company doesn't have a monitoring tool. You want to make sure the company gets a monitoring tool system. So in that situation, the vendor has to support you in terms of how to install it and in terms of how to apply it. Do you get the point? So that is a different aspect. So when it comes to monitoring tool, you can talk to the sales team that I need a support to get it implemented. So they will tell you the things they need, and sometimes they can shadow you to do all those stuff. But for the items I'm talking about, you don't get support. That you don't get, because you have to know how to install it. You have to know how to configure it. So these very items, no. But items like monitoring tool, then that one, yes. So that is also possible. Okay.